There might be some people still coming in, but we're just going to get started here. So hi, welcome to our next webinar in our Summer of Automation series, Automation in the Office of Finance with X3CloudDocs. X3CloudDocs is a cloud-based document management designed specifically for Sage X3 with modules covering accounts payable automation and the dispatch and archive of Sage X3 documents. Focused on value and efficiency, X3CloudDocs is a scalable solution for X3 customers of every size. So a few housekeeping items before we get started. All mics are turned off for this webinar, so if you have a question, please utilize the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. I will be monitoring the Q&A throughout the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and available afterwards, along with the slides and some other information, so look out for an email with that info in a few days. So my name is Sophia Pascuzzo. I'm the Customer Marketing Associate here at RKL eSolutions. I'm joined by Jamie Watts. Jamie is the Sales and Marketing Director at Mysoft, the author of X3CloudDocs, and he's helped to bring this solution to market over the last few years. With a focus on delivering software with a rapid time to value and an end goal of driving business efficiency, he continues to be a customer champion looking for novel solutions to business problems. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Jamie, to get started.
Thank you very much, Sophia. And thank you everyone for joining us today for this Summer of Automation webinar. This is a thought leadership webinar rather than a software demo. So hopefully everyone is expecting that today. I'm going to do a very quick introduction. I've already been introduced, so I won't belabor the point about the company or myself. And we're going to have a chat about why automate finance, why is important, what the background is to it, and then have a look at kind of how the software, whether it's X3CloudDocs, which is our product, or other automation solutions, can help your business to drive efficiency and realize those gains. We'll do a quick wrap up and summary at the end, and hopefully loads of time towards the end for some Q&A. And I do hope that you guys will have some interesting questions. We have 3 polls that will be running during the course of this. There's a little number will pop up, and we'll run a poll at each of those times. Really would appreciate your feedback because it's just really interesting and kind of helps the discussion more than it does the presentation. But yeah, really keen to kind of engage in discussion towards the end about how we can kind of move things forward. So, as per the introduction, I'm Jamie. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Mysoft. We are a Sage X3 partner based in the UK. We've been working with X3 for 18 years. We have people in the business who've worked with Sage X3 since before it was a Sage product, since before it was an X3 product. So decades and decades of history with the stack of software. And we're the software authors of X3CloudDocs, which is a suite of solutions built around document management, AP automation, and kind of workflow-driven notifications, email routing, approvals, things like that. I'm not going to harp on today too much about our product, but around the technologies in general, and leave you guys to make your own decisions around it. So, most businesses today are looking for efficiencies across the entire business. Operational efficiency in the warehouse, in the factory, and in the back office, in the office of finance. And really what today we're going to be looking at is how the use of the technologies of EDM, electronic document management, and accounts payable automation, AP automation, can really leverage the technology to deliver gains, efficiency, and other kind of softer benefits in your businesses. I always think it's really helpful to start with a bit of background. Everyone on this call will be coming from a different place. I'm sure that we have some manufacturers, some distributors. We might have businesses that are professional services or financial services and aren't actually delivering a product at all. But hopefully all of this will still be relevant to you. I break background down into 3 key areas. The first is a situation. What's the situation today? And the situation today is that business conditions are really challenging. Things are hard. In the UK, we've got spiraling inflation. I know in North America, it's a very similar story. Prices are increasing. Energy is pushing the cost of production, the cost of running a warehouse up. Obviously, just the nature of inflation pushes wages up as the cost of doing business is increasing. Across most businesses as well, there are skills shortages. In the post-pandemic era, a lot of people haven't come back to work in the same way as they used to. Large volumes of people have shifted into remote working practices, and finding a way to manage and deal with that is also a challenge. And ultimately, for those of us who deal with product, physical goods, none of us have been immune to supply chain disruption. Obviously, over the last couple of years, the cost of shipping containers has spiraled. There have been a number of challenges in terms of global shipping, whether it was the blockage of the Suez Canal, the lockdowns across the world, but particularly in China, and then the kind of knock-on consequences of moving that product from port to port. So just a very quick poll. Those of you who are on the call today, what are your business priorities today? Multiple choice, you can select multiple of these, but is it skill shortage? Is it cost control? Is it supply chain disruption? Are you being directly affected? Or is it trying to adapt your business, your workforce, your business practices, whether that's front office or back office, to the remote world and the hybrid world? I don't expect anyone has any questions at this stage, but probably by the time we get to the next poll, and certainly by the last one, I would expect probably some questions to be appearing in the chat. I'll give everyone a minute here just to kind of put some responses in, hopefully, and then we can have a look at the answers. Okay. Really interesting, actually. I'm going to guess 5 responses across all the attendees there. But skill shortage, I hear this all day, every day when I go out to site and I meet with customers or with prospects, especially in my work as X3 side. Cost control, I'd be shocked if people weren't worried about cost control. Not good to see someone with supply chain disruption challenges, but very surprising that remote working adaptation hasn't flagged up there at all. That's helpful. I won't talk about it too much when we move on. Okay. So, second part of the background, what's the complication? The complication is that businesses need to identify efficiency gains, cost reductions. Two of the 5 respondents have flagged up cost reductions in order for you to remain competitive in a global market, and that includes the back office. Knowledge workers are usually higher paid, often more vulnerable to skill shortages, harder to retrain, lots of things. And then ultimately, this leads us to asking some questions. And I use this as a framing of all sorts of different challenges that we can face as a business. But what are the first line inefficiencies in the Office of Finance which can be addressed to provide maximum ROI and actually fastest ROI? How can we realize some gains, and how can we tackle some of these business conditions that are causing us challenges? And then, second question we need to ask ourselves is, what solutions are available? How do we identify our needs? How do we identify what can solve those problems? And how can we identify the right way of implementing that ultimate solution? And really, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, what are the most common inefficiencies in the Office of Finance? manual data entry is number one, always has been. If we go back to the days of people keeping physical paper ledgers, that's pretty tragic. But entering data is time consuming. Humans don't write very fast, they don't type very fast, they definitely don't type accurately. So data entry can be error prone. That can be keying entry errors. It can be transposing errors, so people missing kind of lines and getting things shuffled around. It's also really boring, and boring tasks tend to actually slow down over time rather than speed up. So whilst you might have someone who's very efficient at entering data to start with, they become really bored with it quite fast, take increased number of coffee breaks, start chatting and creating disruption in the office, loads of things. It's just inefficient. Like it's a bit tautological here, referring to an inefficiency as being inefficient. But it's just not it's not good. You've got maybe two screens, best case scenario, two screens, and you're transposing from one to the other. You might have a sheet of paper, like a physical invoice or something in front of you, and you're copying across. There's a lot of kind of head movement, eye movement, physical interaction, which is not efficient, and can actually be quite unpleasant for a worker in a kind of an ergonomic sense. And it's expensive. Paying humans to do repetitive manual work is an expensive way of achieving that end outcome. Second efficiency error, informal authorizations. So what I mean by informal authorizations is someone providing a verbal authorization. Yeah, of course, that's fine to pay. Yeah, you can buy that. Sending in an email, scribbling on a bit of paper, maybe writing what account code they want it coded up to on their system, and shifting a bit of paper around. Major issues with this: unauditable. If someone has said something, it's really not auditable. Emails can be changed, they're not super secure. Bits of paper can just be reprinted and changed. So it's not impossible for these things to be forged, for fraudulent activity to be placed, and audit is challenged. And if you're using paper-based, audit is a pain because you then got to find those bits of paper. Informal authorizations don't tend to have workflow control. And what I mean by that is that it doesn't necessarily follow the standard process. So on a Monday, maybe you ask the sales director. On a Tuesday, you're asking the finance director. You're not following a consistent way of doing things. So people don't know what's going on, and maybe you're overspending against budget, or people are approving or not approving things in the wrong manner. Lack of systematic notifications. Software has the ability to send you a text message, to send you an email, to ping up something on your screen. A human doesn't necessarily have all of that available to them. A bit of paper certainly doesn't. And the final one of these, I had never thought of until someone brought it up in one of our case studies, one of our reviews. And actually, what I mean by this is not everyone is totally comfortable going and chasing a finance director or a CFO or a CEO for approvals, especially if they have to chase them 4 or 5 times. It can be pretty uncomfortable to be nagging at a senior executive. And not everyone has that strength and capability. So not being able to do that creates an inefficiency, or the hand-wringing and worry creates an inefficiency. And so this is a very human problem, and one that we can't ignore. Paper-based processes, I don't want to talk about paper. It's really annoying, tedious. It doesn't support remote working, so bits of paper then get photographed on a phone or go through a scanner, or they don't, and they get lost. They get stuck on someone's desk. They get put in the bin. They get scrunched up in the warehouse and put in someone's pocket. They get run over by a forklift. So many things can happen. They require physical storage. For those of you of my generation and older, you will remember what a filing cabinet looks like. Big, tall metal box full of paperwork. thankfully, we don't have so many of those anymore. And if you are retrospectively digitizing, so you're scanning in those old documents or new documents and then receiving them via email, printing them off, scanning them, the quality diminishes, and that just makes things more inefficient. And then finally, just disorganization, a general disorganization of admin in the Office of Finance creates huge inefficiencies. Physical documents in a filing cabinet, in a banker's box, are not searchable. You might have an index card, you might have a card on the outside of the box, but it's not searchable. And if you stick things in a network drive, in a folder, you might have named it well, you might not have done. But for the most part, the contents of those PDFs is not searchable. There isn't an index on key fields, suppliers, dates, things like that. So trying to find things in that kind of disorganized manner can be quite a challenge. Papers, when they're left on people's desks, delayed. There's no time control. You start kind of encountering all sorts of problems, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And actually just knowing who has what. If an invoice comes into the business and it ends up on a physical bit of paper being shifted around, you don't even know where it is. You hope it's on the right person's desk, but you don't know. It doesn't have a Apple AirTag attached to every invoice. So becomes a bit of a disorganization nightmare. So consequentially, what are the problems? I'm going to unlock all of these. You can read them. I'm not going to go into absolute depths of information on this because we've got loads of content to cover. But people get bored. Humans have brains, shouldn't be doing robot work. They should be doing value add knowledge worker work. You lose productivity, you lose motivation. As a result, stuff goes wrong. See top right, stuff going wrong. And you lose staff. Something like 25% of finance professionals are pretty much in the market at any given time. And largely is because they're doing menial, boring work, not the stuff that they've taken their accountancy degrees and professional qualifications to do. Relationships are affected, and whether that is supplier-customer relationships due to late payments causing conflict, an admin person in your business chasing a director, not being uncomfortable as we've discussed, or just the delays of things make people fractious, make people kind of irritable with one another. And I think being kind of ornery about paperwork is not a great place for us to be as humans. Stuff goes wrong. Like generally, if you are disorganized, using bits of paper, you don't have kind of hierarchical authorizations of things, and you're manually entering data. The wrong data gets entered into your systems. People don't get paid on time. They don't get paid at all. They get paid too little. They get paid too much. Like, creates problems. And things get lost. Like, not just paperwork, physical stuff can get lost. Goods can get lost. If you don't know where the paperwork is properly, and it's lost in transit, potentially that money is gone as well. And all of this costs money. All of these things we've talked about is costing money, hard or soft dollars. You're missing early settlement discounts, you're wasting time, and time is money. You're using more resources than are required. If you had a robot doing stuff, you wouldn't need a human sat there entering data. And for those of you who worry about how much your auditor bills are every year, if an auditor is spending hours sifting through bits of paper trying to find stuff, you're paying them for that time. And so your auditor bills are going up when actually you should be able to provide them with a quick way of getting that data. So I've listed you a whole bunch of problems, a whole bunch being 4, but I also have solutions. So framed this as problem solution. Problem 1, manual data entry. Solution to that, automated data entry. Magic, robot eyes, capturing data, entering into the system, validating it, whoosh, we've got efficiency. Informal or lack of authorizations, create structured workflows, create hierarchical authorization workflows. You eliminate a whole bunch of stuff, and we're going to talk about that. Paper-based processes, don't use paper, make it digital. Digital where possible. It's not always possible. And where disorganization is a general thing, we want to drive system-driven activity. So very specific activity pushed forward by a system and automated process. So each of these I'm going to run through because we're about 22, 23 minutes into this, and I don't want to spend the whole time just kind of blathering on about these things. But automated data entry, we've got three possible solutions here. The first is OCR or text layer extraction. And this is not unique to X3CloudDocs. This is going to be generic technology that most solutions in, for example, AP automation will use. OCR, optical character recognition, or text layer extraction, it allows for you pulling the data out of a document, whether that's physical data or kind of digital, so kind of the text behind the document, and pushing that data directly or indirectly into your ERP. Minimal human effort, minimizing data entry errors. Fantastic. People's normal concern when they start automating data entry is, what do we do if something's not right? How do we capture the errors? How do we manage by exception? So we really want to be using something like artificial intelligence, AI, or machine learning, anomaly spotting. We really want to be using this technology to process the data as it is extracted from your documents, match it against the expected results. So in the example of accounts payable, invoice processing, you want to be matching an invoice against a goods received note, against a purchase order. You want to be marrying that data up against, for example, supplier information. So in the UK, we use a VAT number, a tax number. In the US, you might have a unique identifier for a business. You'll have unique product pricing. If you're comparing against a purchase order or a GRN, you'll be comparing against the values that you were anticipating versus those that you're being invoiced for. And what this allows you to do is, instead of capturing all the data with a human and checking everything with a human, you're just checking the exceptions and using human brains to add value to the whole process. And finally, you really want to link this all back together with the ERP data for that validation. So having a direct real-time interface or a batch processed interface where you're updating stuff on a kind of regular basis will allow you to undertake things like that three-way matching, duplicate recognition, so you're not accidentally paying an invoice twice. Could be accidental, could be fraudulent. And it allows you to kind of recycle that human time from investigation into value-add activity. So outcomes, very simply, cost savings, obvious. Humans aren't doing stuff. You buy a solution that's slightly cheaper than human time, you will realize gains. Transposing, indexing, archiving are time-consuming, boring activities. You have expensive resources being paid large amounts of money, doing mundane tasks which could be done more effectively. This is stuff that we've seen in factories for decades. The use of robotics, the use of kind of systematized production lines, and doing this in the back office at data entry points makes total sense. We just need to make sure we've captured all the risks as we've gone. Another benefit, error reduction. Not making the errors means that you A, save time, B, save stress, and C, get stuff through faster. So speed of processing is increased. And finally, employee satisfaction and retention. The cost of recruiting, retraining, and retaining an employee is very high. We really want to focus on retention. Letting people enjoy their jobs, feel like they're adding value to a company, not doing boring, repetitive tasks, will stop them leaving. you will improve your retention rate and decrease staff turnover. People like to do value add tasks, but they need the time to do that. We can't allow people to get bogged down in boring paperwork. So, testimonial, one of our customers. This was great. Finance director, we implemented the solution. It probably took about 4 weeks to get their system up and running. And he actually said this on a phone call to me, and I asked him to send it to me in an email. But yeah, any company still posting invoices manually should consider putting some implementation of automation software in. And he considered it the best individual project that they had done in years. And this is a food and beverage wholesaler in the United Kingdom. I'm going to pause there quickly. Just check Q&A. There are no questions in the chat. If anyone doesn't have any questions, Sophia is monitoring it. I'm happy to stop as we go, but I'll also do a Q&A at the end anyway. Problem 2, informal authorizations. So, solution to informal authorizations, structured workflow. Create automated hierarchical workflows. Those of you already using purchase ordering inside of X3 will know what this is about. But allow documents to go where they're needed in a timely fashion without people having to press send. Using structured workflows, which are triggered automatically, so things go from point A to B to C to D, allows you to progress without human intervention between it. So you can escalate stuff, automatically triage, point things to the right department head, and push things through faster. A digital paper trail is essential, and this is where we start really tackling some of this audit stuff. But running workflows through a system starts to create a digital paper trail immediately. So upon a document being received into the system, being processed, being sent to someone for authorization, how long did it sit with the FD before he authorized it? How long did the CFO wait? Did she go back and request further information? There's loads of things that we can explore and do. Using this audit trail, we can establish whether best practice is or is not being followed. And then finally, the use of notifications, reminders, and highlighting visibility. The magic of a workflow, partially, yes, it's making things faster. Yes, you're taking human time out of it. You're taking that confidence piece out of it as well. What you're doing is eliminating a human's need to challenge someone who's maybe hierarchically superior to them within an organization, and eliminate some of the stress, the delays, and the hand-wringing from the process. Also, you can see it, so you know where it is. So it's not a mystery. It's not that it's with the CFO. Actually, the CFO got it and said, I have nothing to do with this, forwarded it over to the marketing director for their authorization. And then you know who you can go and chase if you want to chase them personally. So, outcomes, we eliminate delays in processing by cutting through all of this nervousness around chasing. We speed things up, and speed stuns, saves cost, and it allows us to drive business faster, more efficiently. We facilitate audit and ensure compliance. So having that audit trail of the document, your digital paper trail, speeds up audit. Someone can say, yes, you are following best practice. An auditor can come in and say, okay, I can see that this has followed an authorization flow. You can monitor it and you can enforce it. And obviously, as I mentioned, gain that visibility, identify bottlenecks in your business process, and actually maybe amend those processes. So these things don't have to stay stuck in time. If things will always end up with the CFO for authorization, maybe you need to reconsider the tolerance levels, the values that people are allowed to authorize at, so not everything ends up in single bottleneck in a business. Another one, this is a pet food manufacturer in the UK. They'd recommend CloudDocs, right? Ignore product name. I would highly recommend an AP automation solution. It's allowed us to digitize our AP process, saved time, focusing on projects that benefit finance function. So creating value add. This doesn't have to be our product. This could be any solution that you're looking at in this realm. Paper-based processes, bane of my life. I still write in a notebook, but mostly I try and eliminate paper. Key pillars to what we want to do here. First and foremost, cloud access. I know those of you on this call today didn't respond particularly strongly to remote working being a problem. We certainly have found that it is now table stakes for people to be able to access documents remotely, allow and facilitate hybrid or remote working. I can't sign something now on a bit of paper. I use DocuSign to sign contracts. If someone leaves something on my desk in the office, I could not see it for 2 weeks. It's not particularly practical. So, supporting and allowing a remote world to develop is so important now. Digital storage frees up space. You don't have millions of filing cabinets. Documents don't deteriorate, catch fire, get water damaged in a flood, all sorts of stuff. And obviously, if you're storing in the cloud, you've eliminated a lot of the DR risk that we wanted to talk about. There's actually also a cost to storing documents because most people don't store them on site in their office. They ship them off to Iron Mountain or some document storage facility, and you're paying every single year for that box to be in a warehouse. If you need that document at audit, for example, you might have paid $15 for a banker's box for a year, and then $25 to retrieve it, and another $25 to put it back. So to potentially get one document out, it could have cost you $50, $60. Gets worse because the document isn't in the box that you thought it is. You've lost another day. You're paying auditors' fees at, let's say, $2,500 a day, and boom, costs have totally spiraled to find one document. Digital indexing. Self-evident. You don't have to spend time indexing. You can search for stuff. A system should digitally index. It should automatically do that. You shouldn't have to key in loads of data. It should grab data from the system of record, your ERP, when you're generating an invoice, when you're generating a quote, and automatically index all of those things. So, what are the outcomes? We can support hybrid and remote working through the elimination of paperwork. Stop losing stuff. Bits of paper that just disappear, that just end up getting trashed, shredded, driven over in the warehouse, deteriorate over time. Just, documents fade. I know if I don't scan a receipt when I go to Starbucks, I'm going to expense that. That money's gone. Because by the time it's lived in my wallet for a month, it's too faded to scan and read, if I still have that receipt at all. So stop losing stuff, digitize it, and save money, retention, retrieval. I've just talked about that. I won't keep going on. North American customer of ours, very large, called Transpac. They really liked our solution. And actually, this is the plug for us as a business and us as a solution. They're a really high document volume processor, global enterprise, and getting huge value out of X3 CloudDocs today. We pride ourselves on delivering a great product and delivering it well. I'd love to talk to you at a future point, if you are a Sage X3 customer, about how we can deliver automation solutions or document management solutions for you. Disorganization. This is the most kind of tedious one of all because everyone will be frustrated by it, and all businesses have some degree of disorganization in them. Systematizing your archiving and indexing. So having a system that puts them away straight away is key. Our product, X3CloudDocs, ensures that things taken out of X3 are tagged, indexed, put away in the correct manner, and allows you to have automated record keeping as well. So you can see when an invoice was sent, when it was downloaded and by who, if there are version changes and iterations of something. The use of workflow and notification is a huge step forward in eliminating disorganization in the business. Prompted activity driven by workflows notifications via email replaces unmanaged ad hoc activity. Per request activity is inefficient and subject to error. And having a digital system really starts to put a lot more control into your business. Role-based permissions, activity workbenches provide people with controlled and systematized ways of working, hides things from people who shouldn't see things, and gives access to those who should. So find things quickly and easily. So whether you're in the business, you're an auditor, whether you're in sales support and someone's saying, oh, can you resend me an invoice? Could you resend me the quote? Be able to grab things quickly and send them generally increases your speed of business. Avoid delays, whether that's internal delays, delays on payment, all of that stuff. Having paperwork on desks, having paperwork digitally in email inboxes or network drive folders, because I'm a rascal for it myself. I've got JW working docs with a working docs folder with a drafts folder inside of it. And you've got 4 or 5 levels of folders to try and find something. So if I haven't named a file properly, it's not being found. Using digital solutions really facilitates your access to these things, and be able to see where documents are in a workflow in the real world. So having that digital twin in software to replicate what a bit of paper would do in your business. It's not about replication, it's actually about improving that standard operating procedure. So this is one of our customers, Timco. They are a distributor of fixtures and fittings hardware, screws, nuts, bolts, things like that. I will actually probably talk about them a bit later, but they were very quick to implement, and they have implemented one of the bits of our solution called straight-through processing for AP automation, where for certain suppliers, if everything is green, so you've got a three-way match on the invoice, all the details are correct, there's nothing to worry about, no human needs to check that invoice until it's ready for payment in X3. It just goes all the way through without a human hand touching it. So very quickly, software options. So we have 3 different modules to our X3CloudDocs suite: inbound, outbound, and workflow. Inbound is AP automation, does all the stuff that I've told you about, OCR, text layer extraction. Automated GL coding uses an AI and machine learning, 3-way matching, and hierarchical authorizations. Great. For people who are not interested in AP automation, but are looking at just your kind of document management, archiving and indexing of documents created in X3 or created outside and manually imported and indexed, we support that. You can view documents in X3 or in our web portal, so you don't have to be an X3 user. The automation of email sending and a digital paper trail of those documents. And obviously also our workflow engine, which sends HTML5 emails, sits on top of X3's workflow. So whether it's object level triggers or batch tasks, you can send emails, add interactive buttons and web forms, have interesting responses. So not just an accept or reject, but actually have a rejection reason, for example. And it's fully integrated into X3's standard workflows. That's really kind of my big push on our software. For those of you who aren't super familiar with how these things work, these bits of software work, these are flows for X3CloudDocs, but they're not really specific to X3CloudDocs. For most people, AP automation looks something like this. An invoice is received, and it goes into a software solution for processing. Ours is X3CloudDocs. Because of what we've built, we've got a great integration to the X3 database. So X3 data is imported back up to our solution in the cloud. Data is extracted from the invoice, and the 2 data sets are validated. As I just mentioned with Timco, if there is nothing wrong, there are no anomalies, it can actually end up straight in X3 straight away. Alternatively, you may want to authorize or review everything and have a human check it. In that case, you can have authorization emails or an authorization workbench. And ultimately, your invoice will end up created in Sage X3. Also, a copy of the invoice is stored securely in the cloud for perpetuity, and then you've got this bit of paper virtualized forever. Our document management solution, Outbound, works like this. All of them should work the same, greater or lesser extent, depending on how tight the integration is to X3. But you'll generate a document in X3, a statement for your customer, a quote, a sales invoice, a tracking slip, a bill of lading. That document will be processed and indexed and split into two directions. The first direction is that if it is being sent via email to a customer, it will find the nominated contact for that customer based on their department, based on a number of rules, and automatically send it to them. And the second part is because it has been indexed, you've got multiple fields and the ability to kind of configure it as you require. You store it securely in the cloud, and then you can access it either via the web portal or directly from X3 through a hosted screen. And finally, our workflow solution, which kind of sits to the side but can add value to all of these business processes, is sat on our kind of X3 server. You've got your workflow engine, you've got triggers in X3 asking stuff to happen. It might grab data from X3. So let's say we're sending a automated shipping notification out from Sage X3. It can grab the data, create a table of all the items that are being shipped, send that in an email, prettily formatted with your branding logos, all the stuff that standard X3 doesn't offer. It's plain text, blue links emails. If it's an internal email, a purchase order approval, for example, you could put this through X3 workflow, accept it, push the data back into X3, and that PO has been approved. Alternatively, you might do all of that same stuff again, reject it, it fails, you correct your data, approve it the next time, and off it goes. So that's what these kind of automation engines can do, what they should offer. Okay, so very quickly, because I'm conscious of time, I'm going to summarize the benefits. We're going to do another quick poll, and then I'm done. What does automation offer to your business? Cost savings, obviously, one of the biggest things we're looking for. Reduction in errors, which does save costs, but it also just saves a load of bother and potential reputational harm. Improved consistency of data. If you're just filling in things by hand, different people will do things differently. If you systematize it, it should be consistent, much more searchable, much better for data analytics. People are happier, employee retention, satisfaction, reduced costs of re-employing people, hopefully improved customer and supplier relationships. So, you accessing early settlement discounts, paying people on time, it's always nice, reduces conflict, especially when it's not intentional. Compliance and auditability saves costs, as I've talked about, actually just makes you a better business. And just accelerated speed of processing. So just doing stuff faster. It's more efficient, it's more fun, and actually, at the end of the day, it allows your business to focus on doing whatever it is that your business does to make money and to be profitable, rather than spending a whole bunch of time pushing bits of paper around, asking people to approve stuff, asking them again to approve stuff, and then trying to find that bit of paper in 6 months' time, a year's time, when you have an auditor in. So a little bit of advice for everyone if you are looking at software solutions. If you are looking to implement automation to deliver value, it's going to be different every business. So I'm not here to tell you what's wrong with your business. Assess for yourself what is inefficient. And then ask the questions of why are you doing it this way? Is there something special about your business that means it has to be this way? Who's involved in that process, or who could be involved, or who should be involved? And if you were starting a business today, doing what you do, what would the ideal process look like that doesn't necessarily involve 32 people to validate something? Then go to market and evaluate the solutions. First, what's available? Generic software, specific software to your ERP. Do you want cloud? Do you not want cloud? What's available? What's suitable? And would that allow you to meet ideal? And you also need to decide how close to ideal do you want to be. Set a timeline. So when do you want this by? Do you have the right resources in the business today to do this? What's the cost of you not doing it today as well? Can you afford to do it? Can you afford not to do it? When do you need to have done that by? And can you facilitate this taking place? Define success. So what does a good job look like in 3 months or 3 years from now? How will you look at this project and say, yes, this has achieved its goals? And then all journeys start with the first step. You've actually got to start, but this journey should never end. It may be that you finish an AP automation project, and then you want to start an AR automation project, or a document management automation, or shipping notifications. Continuous improvement is key. That's how businesses grow, thrive, and develop. Everyone will have seen on LinkedIn the clever little calculations of 1 times 365 is 1, 365, and 1.01 then ends up with a much bigger number, because you are multiplying a very small thing, getting there, aggregation of marginal gains. So continuous improvement, growing, developing, working on process. Our projects are quick and easy, 6-10 days, 4 weeks. Timco did it in 2 weeks. It was really quick. We use cloud software, which means we can get stuff up really fast. It also reduces your cost of ownership because you don't have to invest in technology or IT teams. And we have an ROI calculator, so we can help you work out what your ROI is and whether you can afford to or not afford to do these things. So what's key is that we offer a solution to businesses of all sizes. It's totally scalable. It's transactional volume priced. So people who process not much don't pay very much. People who process a lot more pay more as appropriate to their system usage. So conclusions. Very quickly, and I could have asked this at the start, but I'm presuming that people have joined this call to learn. Who actually uses EDM or AP automation today, or some other kind of solution? Just going to check. Oh, guys, there's still no questions in the chat. Although there may be none that I can see. Sophia might have a couple that have gone in directly that I'm not visible to. Okay. From the data, not many of you are actually using solutions to do this today. I strongly recommend it, whether you are an X3 user, you're not. I recommend our solution, but I also recommend you just take a look at what AP automation can do for you, or document management can do for you. My details will be available after the call, as will your account manager details. Please do ask. You can probably tell I've talked for 51 minutes on it so far. I could probably talk for about 2 days, but really happy to discuss, answer questions, talk about the market, talk about how we operationalize this into your business. Okay, so finally, very quick conclusions, then a Q&A. Question to you really, why wait? Do you love entering data and getting stuff wrong? Do you really adore indexing and filing, and probably thinking, oh, it's just here, it's in this cabinet here somewhere, or chasing your boss for approval, or your boss's boss, because that's always fun. Don't think many people love those things. What about remote working and supporting people who are in that environment, speeding up processes using modern innovative technologies like AI, letting robots do robot work, not humans, letting people use their brains for good stuff, having notifications and chasers automated, so you don't spend half your day just running around after stuff, getting rid of errors, so it's right first time. It looks good for the department, it looks good with suppliers, it looks good for the business, and it just makes everyone's life a bit easier. And probably most people on this call would like a bit more time themselves to do value add tasks. I suspect solutions like this could add some of that to you. So here's all the cool stuff that these kinds of solutions, but ours specifically, can offer you. Not going to read them. And hopefully, Sophia's got a few questions queued up. I believe there were one or two that were sent in by people who couldn't attend today but wanted to ask.
Yep, I do have a couple here for you.
Amazing.
So we'll start with this one. How long does it take to teach CloudDocs about my invoices?
Yeah, so this is for X3CloudDocs Inbound, so our AP automation tool. There's two answers to that. The first is that X3CloudDocs Inbound uses what's called the 4 eyes principle. So it would like a human to have looked at an invoice twice to validate it. So then it's like capturing all the data correctly every time. A caveat to that is that what we actually use is something called a global invoice library. So the metadata behind the invoices is stored and shared between customers. So if, for example, customer A has trained the system previously on DHL, when customer B gets a DHL invoice in, they might actually only have to check it themselves and train the system once to say, yes, this is all correct, because someone else has actually done the legwork. But actually the processing and training of a new invoice is really quick and easy. Yes, visual, it uses a bit of this kind of machine learning AI, and it's super simple. And we cover it in a live demo. We can show you in a live demo in about 1 minute how you train up an invoice for a supplier, and then it gets it right every time after that, pretty much. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. And I have another one here. How quickly can X3CloudDocs be implemented?
Yeah, that's another good question. Obviously, there's different modules: inbound, outbound, workflow. Workflow is more of like a how long is a piece of string. It doesn't take very long to implement the solution. It's more scenario led, so it depends on kind of what workflows, what notifications, what email templates you want to do. A lot of it is about enabling you, the customer, to do it yourself. So it can be done really quickly. Inbound and outbound, so the AP automation and the EDM, are both typically kind of between 6 and 10 day projects. They're not big projects. They're quick to deliver. We've done it in as little as 2 weeks for a customer who just wanted to get it done, pulled the trigger, ordered. They're one of our existing X3 customers, so we kind of knew them and we could get into their system literally on the day they placed the order, install, get training, make it happen. Most customers take probably 4 weeks to implement, and those kind of 6 to 10 day services are spread out over that. And we actually deliver it in like 2 hour sessions mostly. And it's not all contact time, so it's not a massive burden for your business to absorb. And we can deliver this entirely remotely and around your business needs.
Okay. And one more here for you. Do we need to be using POs?
No, not all businesses who use this do use POs, or some businesses use POs and then don't process purchase order invoices through our solution because they're rare. For the customers who are not doing that, the system supports. So again, like this is the AP one. The system supports the ability to use service periods as an example. So the ability to have kind of to and from dates. You can code it up to GL accounts, general ledger nominal accounts, and train the system that when you receive for example, a subscriptions invoice for your CRM, it will automatically code that up against a GL code, or potentially you could train it to code it up against a single GL code multiple times, proportioning it across multiple dimensions. So, across your business. So like 30% is marketing and 70% is sales, for example, if that is how you want to do it. So yeah, absolutely. You don't need POs. Most of our customers do use POs, and it does support things like the anomaly matching, your three-way matching, which just is good business practice. And so we would recommend that you maybe consider a PO project as well with your partner to implement something like that.
Great, thanks. And I'm going to pause for a few moments here to see if we have any more coming in at the Q&A. Okay, I don't see any. So thank you all again for attending. Thank you, Jamie, and everyone at X3CloudDocs for presenting. Our next in the summer series, our next webinar is Flowcast with Driving Financial Agility on Wednesday, June 14th, and we hope to see you then. Thank you.
Thank you very much.